This is how you vertically jig. You look at your hummingbird that doesn't turn on. Oh my gosh. Oh, I got one while I'm joking. It's a good one. Oh, that's just how it works. Oh! Drop shot doesn't catch small fish. Well, we always say. Okay. Alright. Welcome back, everybody, to One Dream Fishing. Me and Reese over here.
It's me. We are out on Lake Palestine, and as you can tell, there's literally no wind, and it is super high pressured. So, what do you do when that happens? You slow it down, throw a little finesse gear, and so since it's a little bit rough out here, we're going to talk to you about our ideal drop shot setup and how we fish it. So let's get into it. So first up, I'm going to talk about the rod and reel that I throw this on. So this is an Alpha Angler DSR, which stands for drop shot rod. I should know that, but I don't. It's a 610 medium fast action rod. It's more of a medium light. It's really soft, but it's got plenty of backbone, and definitely the best drop shot rod on the market. Mark and I swear by this rod. We always pick this up when times get hard. And so I've got a 3000 size Stratic on here with 20-pound backing, 20-pound braid backing to a 8-pound fluorocarbon leader. And I do about 15 foot of that and tie a crazy Alberto knot to that. So I'm going to show you how I rig this sucker up. So for just about my general drop shot fishing, I'm going to throw a 2-aught Gamakatsu. I'm going to tie a polymer knot. So I go in once and then come back out until you'll have two little lines coming out the same way with a little loop. And you're going to tie a overhand knot, pull it, and then pass the hook through that hole, and then cinch it down and make sure it's all good. And so you want to make sure your hook is sitting straight up. You see how it's sitting down right now? You want it to always be sitting this way. And so what we do is we actually pass the tag end back through the top of this hook, and then you tighten and get that knot sitting right, and it's always going to sit, the hook's always going to sit right, so your bait is always going to be sitting at that right angle. And so what weight I throw generally is a 3/8 ounce tungsten. Tungsten can be a little bit expensive, but if you can afford it, I definitely recommend it, because you're going to feel a lot more of the bottom that you're fishing, the structure, and you're going to feel a little bit more the bites. And so I'm just going to tie this up on, you could do whatever knot, honestly. There's also different kinds where you can just pass it through and slide it up. I don't prefer those because I've noticed that I'll cast, and since it's not tied on, and since I'm throwing such a light line, it'll just snap, and then I'll lose a ton of weight, and then I'll have to retie. So I just prefer the ones with this regular little circle tie. So then I'll just tie. I usually just tie a couple overhand knots and make sure it's cinched down pretty good. My general leader length is about 6 to 8 inches, a little bit longer than the length of the worm that I'm going to throw. Oh yeah.
Alright, so y'all saw how Reese ties on the drop shot. I do the exact same thing. We both grew up learning at the same time, so we fish a lot alike. Our go-to two drop shot baits are going to be a shad colored worm and then more of a bluegill colored worm. So I'll throw this Zoom shad colored worm. Let me see what the name of it is. It's actually the smoking shad, and I'll usually throw this when the water's pretty clear, and especially this time of year right now. We are in early summer. The shad are starting to spawn, so these bass are really keen in on that shad. So I will tie this on. When the water gets a little more stained and we're fishing a little bit dirtier water, I'll go to a green pumpkin colored worm, and then I'll fish a green pumpkin with, this one actually has purple and red flakes, but I normally prefer just red flake. And I feel like me and Reese both feel like we both get a lot more bites on that. And what I will do also is on this green pumpkin worm, I'll take a little bit of chartreuse here, and then I'm gonna dye just a little bit. I'm almost out of spiky here. just the tip.
Just the tip.
That's right, just the tip of this any green pumpkin zoom worm. And I'm telling you guys, I swear by this. If I am fishing a green pumpkin worm on my drop shot, it's gonna have a dyed tail. I feel like I get a lot more bites on my drop shot. It's something about when this bait's bouncing off the bottom, they see this little flash. It looks just like a bluegill tail if y'all have ever seen one. And I think the bass really key in on that. So the way I'll rig this drop shot is honestly, I rig it both ways. I go to the top or the bottom. I really don't think it matters, but on these straight shank hooks, when I'm fishing cover and stuff, I'll definitely Texas rig it just like that and then Texpose it. So now this bait's completely weedless. And the key to this thing is you want it as straight on that hook as possible. Like, I didn't even get it that straight right there. That's a little better. But you don't want that worm to have any kind of kink in it at all. And yeah, that's basically how I rig it and what kind of worms I like to throw. So something that me and Reece do that we don't think a whole lot of other people do is we actually like throwing these drop shots into thick cover, like thick brush piles when we're dragging offshore. That's one of the reasons we like this weedless Texas rig hook instead of one of these open kind of circle hooks that a lot of guys fish on their drop shots where they just hook it through the nose. What this allows us to do is really get in the thick stuff down there and not get hung up. And we have done it so many times on Rayburn where we've been out fishing and we've caught some good fish out of the brush pile on a football jig or a big brush hog on a Carolina rig, and then we kind of go and clean up with the drop shot, something a little more finessey, and like 9 times out of 10 we'll get at least one more fish out of the brush pile. So that's another thing that we like to do.
And it may seem a little scary to throw 8-pound tests in a brush pile, and it is extremely important to have a high quality reel with a very good drag system on it, because playing your fish in that thick cover is super smart, because you're gonna have to be able to tell whether they're behind a stump and to back off your drag, or to reel your tighten your drag and to winch them out. And so having a really good spinning reel is also really important. All right, everybody, we are on the rock pile. There's a big old rock pile down here. It's basically like there's a ledge out here, it comes up, and on that ledge where it comes up, that's where the rock pile is. And so I'm just gonna make a bomb cast out here. And that's why it's real important to tie that Alberto knot, because it comes through these guides really well. As you can, I mean, you didn't even hear it, so yeah. Didn't hear nothing. All right. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open my bail, let plenty of slack out so it sinks all the way to the bottom, and then I'm gonna reel it tight. So this technique is not as it's not like your Texas rig. You're not going to pop it, let it fall on slack line, and then pop it. That's how you fish a Texas rig. But with this one, you reel it tight and you keep it tight. Make sure there's always pressure on your bait, and then you barely work that tip. If you can see my rod tip, you can see it's barely moving. And so that's when, as that bait is, you keep that weight on the bottom, and then you barely move that rod tip, your worm is just sitting there, wiggling. And so it's a real finesse tactic. And so barely moving that worm is how you're gonna get a lot of your bites. And honestly, just having your bait sitting there will get a lot of bites as well. And so I'm gonna barely just inch it up and then just reel down. Keeping it tight the whole time is super important. And then I'll do that all the way until I get to back to the boat. And yeah.
So the reason that Reece and we both keep our rod tip up all the time is because if you think about this drop shot, the weight's going to be on the bottom, right? And then your worm's going to be suspended up the line just a little bit. So if you put your rod tip down, or you're just like kind of just let it have slack line, that bait's actually going to fall down to the bottom, and then it's going to be laying on the bottom. And you're completely just ruining the purpose of what a drop shot is. So by keeping his rod tip up all the time, that bait's going to be elevated up off the water. Excuse me, up off the bottom all the time. So it's going to be right in front of them fish's face who are down there sitting on the bottom. So that's one of the things why a drop shot gets bit a lot more than a bait that's going to be sitting on the bottom the whole time.
Looking for a juice spot. Banana, drink that water, Mark. Yeah. We're at a new location, and give him a little pan, Mark. So this is a pretty steep little drop off here. And so another way that Mark and I really like to fish a drop shot is on a nice steep bank with a ledge in between. So basically this place sets up where it's shallow on the bank, obviously, and then it comes down about 5 feet, and then there's a good hard drop off to about 15 foot. And so you can't see it with your eyes, but we know it's there because of our amazing hummingbird graphs. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cast out towards the bank, and you're gonna work it all the way down that ledge. And that drop shot with that weight is gonna continuously fall down each of those rocks that are there. And so those fish are gonna be sitting on that little ledge, and they're gonna be ambushing. So right when your worm comes down, they're gonna come up and just smoke it. We also didn't mention in the last place, we are from Texas. And so the way we fish may be a little bit different than you northern guys who are used to fishing for smallmouth. And so a lot of our gear is a little bit more beefed up, but like the 20-pound test braid, I know a lot of guys that'll, throw like a 10-pound braid backing, but we need thicker materials because there's always a chance for us to catch a 10-pounder.
Drop shot doesn't always catch small fish for all you guys that refuse to throw a drop shot. Actually, I've caught one of my biggest fish on a drop shot in our state tournament in the THSBA, which is the Texas High School Bass Association. We were out on Rayburn, and like I said earlier, we'd been dragging this brush pile for 2 days. Reece had caught a couple 5-pounders out of there, and they just got used to seeing that bigger presentation. So I tied on a drop shot, and like maybe my 10th cast, and I was working it and caught a 6.5-pounder on a drop shot. So drop shots do catch big fish.
Yeah, and so having the right equipment like this amazing Alpha Angler.
Yes.
DSR. Golly, I cannot remember this.
I know.
And
That's like my favorite rod. It's one of yours too.
It's yours too.
DSR right here, like literally, you can count the rocks down there and you can like know the size of them. It is insane.
It is ridiculous. It is the best drop shot rod on the market. If you want to use it, if you want to get it, use code ReeceMartin18 and you'll get 10% off your next order.
Finish the day out here. Gonna try to catch a couple fish for you guys, and y'all can see how we set the hook, how we fight the fish, and stuff like that. Reece?
That's about it, guys.
Yeah, so
I didn't really know what you were going to say.
if you're a northern guy watching or something, drop a comment below of what y'all do differently. If y'all throw y'all's drop shots differently or whatever, we want to know what y'all are thinking.
This is our take on the whole drop shot technique. We're obviously going to adapt this at different lakes, lakes with not as much brush here. We're going to be throwing those open hooks that'll upgrade or help you get more hooks into your fish, I guess. It'll up your hookup ratio, we'll say.
There you go.
And yeah, so leave a comment below on anything you do different. And all right, guys, this is actually a representation of what we're fishing. Mark?
I don't know what Reece just said. This is how you vertically jig. You look at your hummingbird that doesn't turn on. Oh my gosh. Oh, I got one while I'm joking. Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. Oh, that's just how it works. Oh! Drop shot doesn't catch small fish. Oh my gosh, that's a solid one. Here, buddy. Well, I am seeing pulling the drag. Pull that drag, pull the drag. Key to these fish are tiring them out. Boy, it was up there.
That's gonna be a weird clip right there. Tell you what. Here she comes.
Oh,
heck
that's
yeah.
A solid one. Oh, 3.5 maybe.
All right, everybody. Drop shot, man. Tell you what, they catch good fish. Just gotta be a little patient with it. Weed through some of them little bites, but that was like third cast into this little rock pile off this point that we showed you earlier. And yeah, a little 3.5. Got a frame to be a 4-pounder, but good fish nonetheless.
Heck yeah, baby, let's go.
The promo code for these amazing Outfangler rods is going to be in the description below, so go check that out. And we got a couple videos also on different tips and techniques. We got one for a Tokyo rig, 4 ways you can fish that, so go check that out. That'll also be linked below. But as always,
Thanks for watching, guys.
God bless.
We'll see you on the next episode.